Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to the 142nd Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-host Van H. I'd like to welcome you, Van. It was great to meet you this spring, and it's been great to see you and learn a little bit about you at the meetings we share. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Milan, for having me. And as Milan mentioned, my name is Van, like Chevy or whatever you drive. And I recently turned 61. And as far as recovery, I've got 14 years recently as well. And I originally come from Calgary and have moved to the Okanagan Valley. I've been here about 20 years. I attend meetings all over the place. I have a meeting that I've started personally as well on Wednesdays in Penticton. It's an agnostic meeting, and I'm so glad and grateful that I have a clubhouse like AA that I can go to and hang out with everybody like you and learn what it is that I need to learn to help me keep the crazies at bay and to live life on life's terms.
I love that. Okay, so every time somebody's new on the program, just to show the variety to newcomers and our audience, I always ask this one question. What was the pivotal moment where the program sparked a recovery fire in your heart, where it went from I have to do this to I love to do this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and all good questions need a little bit of thought.
Mhm.
So that moment when it went from drudgery to value and benefit that I understood for my life would be, I've taken a couple of stabs at this really over the years. I'm a relapser, and years ago, I got 5 years when I was 28 years old, and I think I lit up like a lot of people do with the phenomenon of the pink cloud, probably within 6 months of attending initially. And I thought that was forever and all, and I thought that this was an amazing state of mind and being and body and to be in forever and all. And unfortunately, it didn't last for me, and it doesn't last for a lot of people. And I crashed and burned again, tragically, and you know, years passed, and I'm pretty certain now, though, after 14 years and being the age that I am, I understand the value fully, and I think I've felt this way for a good many years now. I understand the value and the reason and the purpose for being sober, and it makes sense to me on a personal level. So I don't know if there's any real magical moments specifically that I can name, but I'm a result of having, gone walked through the fire and got through the other side enough times that I realized how important it is to me.
And that eventually the fire kind of burns.
Yeah.
You know, you can walk through the fire and walk through the fire and walk through the fire, and then eventually you're like, shit, why are my pants on fire?
Yeah. It's getting through the other side is the point, I think, hey?
Yeah. So I thought, we would take a stab at the topic of we the agnostics, but the actual title of this one will be called the Godless Bastard because you've self-proclaimed yourself as the Godless Bastard at many a meeting I've been at, and I think the shock value of somebody looking down the episode list of seeing the Godless Bastard will absolutely be a fun thing. And we both like to have fun and laugh inside our meetings, and what's life about it? Humor's a valuable part of recovery in my life. So can you share what it means for you to be agnostic and why you proclaim yourself as the Godless Bastard?
Thank you. Yes. Well, I'm basically a non-believer, if you will, and I have been all of my life. We never ever darkened the doors of a church, ever. So I have no conditioning to believe in something outside of myself, like like a God. And it was pretty tough, really, coming around the rooms. Years ago. And I've, you know, on the back of every coin, or most coins, it says, "To thine own self be true," right? I don't know if you can see that, but many coins say that. And at some point, I had to realize that I was kind of lying to myself. I tried to be a good sport and fit in, and I'm not the only one, right? And so it's it's been a journey fraught with some battles along the way, because there are individuals in the traditional AA rooms that are hardcore, hard ass, self-appointed AA know-it-all ambassadors, and they believe that there's only one way, and the AA way is the Holy Grail. And I've been around long enough now, and that kind of moved me out the doors. I kind of felt unwelcome, and I felt like, they talk about always always inclusive and never exclusive, but it isn't really that way. And so I moved myself out the door. I don't know if you can say that I use that as an excuse. I just didn't feel welcome anymore, because people were suspicious of my lack of beliefs. But more than that, I think now looking back, they were irritated at my vocalizing that this wasn't something that was useful or helpful to me. And surely I'm not the only person that had to hide and create this facade of a belief to just to fit in the rooms. And so as I aged and ripened, and I kept coming back, there were a number of fights that I'd get into, and it takes two to fight. And but I think that I was fighting the good fight and the fair fight. And I've lived long enough now to see that AA Agnostica, for all the blood that they had to shed just to be part of AA, is one of the fastest growing aspects of AA, and nobody can deny it anymore. So I wear it, this as a cape, as a costume. The Godless Bastard. Instead of Superman, I'm the Godless Bastard. It's tongue in cheek. It's a way of saying, poking fun at myself, and letting people know that I got a lot of sobriety now, or a decent amount. I'm a decent person. I can joke. I can call myself the Godless Bastard, and I think most people now sort of respect my sobriety, regardless, and they say,
Mhm.
"Yeah, he's an atheist. We'll keep him. We don't really care one way or the other."
We'll keep them. I
You
love
know,
that. Yeah, so, gosh, okay. There's certainly a lot to unpack there, but I just kind of did a little thing here where being agnostic in the 12-step program means entering recovery unsure of or questioning the existence, nature, or relevance of a higher power. Rather than requiring belief, both Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous invite openness. The Big Book specifically addresses agnostics in Chapter 4, We Agnostics, saying that willingness is the key to spiritual awakening. In living clean, it's acknowledging that recovery is not about adopting a specific theology, but about having an open mind and a willing heart. For agnostics, the program becomes a spiritual experience shaped through practice, connection, and transformation, not dogma. And I really liked that part there. And for me, first of all, the very first thing they talk about is honesty. And if you were pretending, you would be lying. So I really believe that, when you say to thine own self be true, right? Like that's really important. It's literally stamped in the coin. And the truth of the matter is that we should all be able to be where we are at, you know, and just fighting the fight for sobriety together. You know, I I have seen you in meetings state, how you felt like an outsider, and and I think that maybe some of the arguments or battles must have occurred before I got there, because it never occurred in. I never witnessed it, and but I do know people that are absolute about God or not God, you know, and 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 to me, while I'm not exactly of the same mindset as you about, like I believe in the energy of the universe and there are connectedness inside that, right? So whether you want to call that my higher power or not, I really could care what someone else labels it. But the one thing for me was that I was raised Catholic, which I never believed in what they were teaching me. And so I have a massive aversion to the G word, you know, like when they're like, okay, you could call it your higher power, and then they use God 5 times in a paragraph. I'm like, but you're not. But you're not, like, and then I'm like, but they're like, well, it's just easier for us to call it that. And I'm like, well, no, it's actually just as easy to use the words higher power. Like if you actually want to get down to semantics, you know what I mean? It's just 2 words. And in fact, in this day and age, you could just be like replace. Inside a typing program, you could just highlight God and put replace every time this is here, and it'd be over. Like, but it's not how it's done. And so I have, I've definitely had some discomfort and some resistance and some opposition from other people about even just that. So I can imagine that you've faced much larger resistance or hurdles, and so I was really happy to discuss this here today, but also to give your like to give whatever, if you'd like to call it, your movement, your ideology, a voice. I don't believe that recovery is cookie cutter for anybody. And one of my very favorite things that like I'm not sure if you were at Mike's 35-year cake this spring. Anyway, Mike's a great guy, and Oliver celebrated 35
Oh, Mike,
years.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and his one message was, if you're straight and you're experiencing reasonable contentment, don't let anybody else tell you about how that you should be sober or what you should be doing. And I thought that was a great message. It was really like, that was not what I expected to hear that day, and I was really I really thought, man, good on you, Mike. Like, just,
Yeah.
ultimately we're there to get straight. We're there to get straight. And then all the other stuff really is what direction and how much effort and whatever you want to do with your life. Like, for me, I love being in recovery. I love how it's changing my life. And like, I mean, I'm doing a show on it. I go to meetings pretty much every day. I have sponsees. I sponsor. I'm not a part-timer in recovery. So, that's pretty much the intro for me there. Are you ready for some questions?
Yeah, well, I just want to say, I mean,
Mm,
I was wondering which Mike you were talking about, and then, yeah, I know
mm,
Mike B very well, and
mm.
he, like you, was born into a very heavy Catholic
Yeah,
uh, church, and he's an atheist. Uh,
yeah,
he doesn't always use uh, those words because he doesn't want to
yeah,
scare people with the,
yeah.
big A word. But yeah, I've hung out with Mike at that meeting many times, and
Mm,
John as well. So there are many of us out there that I think are are not afraid to come out, so to speak, and
yeah.
say. And I just want to show you a quick little prop that we use at the Wednesday Agnostic and Living Sober meeting
Okay.
that I started. I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well, but when new people come in, I share this with them. Oh yeah, you
Oh,
can't see it anyway. I give them one side of the mirror to read and look into it.
this
Oh, you
person
can.
may kill you. Yeah,
And then I give them the other side. Can you read
this
that?
person could save you. Oh, I love that.
That's kind of how we roll, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's, our perception and our reactions really are define our reality.
yeah, and who we are and what our
Yeah.
values are and what we believe and who we
Hmm.
think we are and our
Yeah.
life experience and everybody, you know, I learned I facilitated smart recovery years ago, right? For
Mm.
5 years, and it's a training process. You have to go through it, and they say our position is that there are as many paths to recovery as there are people seeking them, right?
Yeah.
That's important. Everybody's,
Mm.
and that's why options and allowance for people and their differences is so becoming so important these days, right?
Options was the name of the treatment center I went to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I,
Yeah,
I love that, and like I said, I mean, I'm really open-minded to different things. I'm trying to actually get someone who even has ayahuasca recovery center on. I want to get somebody from Dharma recovery on. Like there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, and to be honest, if it's working for you, don't let anybody tell you it's not right.
yeah. And I think the biggest problem is now with the old guard, sort of,
Yep.
dying in AA. I mean, it was the first and heaviest program, and it was the only way at one point,
Mm.
and I think there was a lot of fear around even the idea. Some people treat the big book as though, it's a Bible or something like that, and written by a divine hand. And I loved it, and I had my own big book, and I had it, marginalized and underlined and highlighted and everything as well years ago, 1992. And I gave it to a new person, and I've never seen it since. But at some point I kind of parted ways with it, and just decided there's other information out here, and I want to find out what that is.
Mm.
Well, with some of those older people, you're just not able to do that. And now, many of them are dead and in their 70s and 80s, and I'm just happy to see that AA is actually evolved. There was times when
Mm.
I was afraid that I don't think this ever will, because I've just spent so much time fighting and trying to explain to these people. Now, I want to say too, though, for sure, just because I'm a godless bastard,
Mm.
I don't have a vested interest in how somebody gets sober, right? I
Mm.
don't care about their process. I want sobriety for
Mm.
everybody, no matter how. It's
Yeah.
naive,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that I absolutely, I'm allergic to the idea that there is any one way to sobriety, period.
Yeah.
It works.
I agree to that.
And I always say whatever works, and
Mm.
that's based on your results.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other way to put metrics to that. But
Exactly. And uh, uh, I hear it all the time. Oh, that doesn't work for me. Well, guess what? No recovery method works for anybody. You work for it. It doesn't come. None of them work without a certain amount of self-reflection and pen to paper and working through it. Like freedom isn't free.
mm,
And that's the bottom line. If
yeah,
it was, you'd be able to like tap two shoes together and be there's no place like home and be this straight little perfect child again. But that's not how it is. We have to really
freedom
we have to
freedom is
undo a
spelled
lot of the damage of our
WORK.
life. Huh?
Freedom is spelled WORK.
Yeah, exactly. Freedom's a four-letter word.
Mm.
Okay, I got a question here for you. Spiritual growth in recovery begins not with certainty, but with the courage to wonder. How did your willingness to question become a doorway to deeper understanding?
Willingness to question with regard to spirituality. I
Life,
any
anything.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I had to be true to myself, right?
yep. Hmm.
I, if there were a God, my question would be why would a God make me an atheist? It's like it's just too baffling. So at some point I had to wake up and get honest and say that maybe there are other ways for me,
Hmm.
this way isn't working. And I feel like I'm not being true to myself, and I'm feeling like I'm just trying to fit in, and I couldn't live with myself properly that
Hmm.
way. And so rather than continually fighting and bitching just to find a way, I decided to look for a way. And, part of that for me was to become a facilitator for smart recovery. I found smart recovery What I loved about that was going through the process. They said in the introduction, check us out and see if this works for you, and if not, find another way. Find some way that works for
Mm-hmm.
you. That means find something like even AA.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what was happening in the old AA, and I'm so happy to see it slowly evolving, is that you would never hear that. Like, no way.
Mm-hmm.
AA is the way, period. And we don't want to hear anything else. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but I started, and I think over the years I've learned enough, and I've learned how to fit in enough, and to, in meetings, traditional meetings, I use the word higher power to be a good sport, right? And but I say that I have many higher powers that I don't actually pray to, such as
Mm-hmm.
information. Information.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I didn't know until I opened my ears and I got information, and it went in my ear holes and into my brain, and
Yeah.
it made sense. And then I put that to use and into practice, and I become, a different person.
Yeah.
I think and I feel and I behave differently as a result of getting information, right? So my thinking process is one that's ongoing and never ending. And I think that's the way to look uh, to evolution, personal evolution, rather than just, for me, I could not get stuck into a box with no opening, and like I felt like I was in a AA prison. And if you don't talk like us and think like us, you're going to be outside the herd. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I had to be true to myself that way, and it's an ongoing process, and I love it. I think it's a journey of a discovery, right? If information comes from any source, whether it's religious or psychological or in the rooms or anywhere, a YouTube video, a book, it doesn't matter to me. If it makes sense, it's cool. It's not something I've heard before. I'll try it on for size.
I love that. I've always said since I started is that I'm on a quest for self-discovery through this process. You
Mhm.
know, and so, how did my willingness to question become a doorway to deeper understanding? I felt like inside my addiction for myself, I lost my curiosity near the end. Like I just was like in this status quo kind of repeating my cycle of more, whether it was with alcohol or whether it was with drugs. It was just like, getting by was good enough. And coming into recovery, it was, they say you got to change one thing, everything. And it's pretty much true. Like, you have to change your physical patterns. Really, I had to relearn how to sleep. I had to, start actually caring about my body, that I was just, feeling full of toxins, whether it was cigarettes, drugs, or alcohol. Like, and but then there was my discomfort with the universe. I really like, I had a friend who said, like the restless, irritable, and discontent, right? It's anxiety, anger, and depression. And almost everybody I know, before or near their rock bottom, is suffering from one to three of those three things, in some format or other. And I was blaming all that on external forces versus, my own level of acceptance, surrender, and so it was really with the tools of the steps that I was able to bring myself to awareness. So, like my willingness to question really was me being willing to actually do that work. The willingness was the work of doing the steps, and the doorway to a deeper understanding was me going through the pain of actually being honest with myself and seeing that I was the source of most of my discomfort and my anger and my depression. Like all of those things that was getting caused by me. And that was not a like awesome pill to swallow at first. But the beauty of it was is I can't change you, Van, but like I do have a chance of changing myself, you know? And so
What were those three things that you mentioned?
restless, irritable, and discontent,
Right, right.
anxiety, anger, and depression.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of that, like you alluded to, it, a lot of that stuff can be summed up with that word that you have on your arm,
Acceptance.
acceptance. Eh?
Yeah,
Nothing was ever
exactly.
good enough, interesting enough, fun enough, cool enough. I always had to be outside of myself somehow, and I didn't like a lot of things.
And that was it. It's like choosing. Like one of the things I discovered was that I would hold pity parties.
Yeah.
And what is pity parties? It's like a celebration of your discomfort. You know, I had friends where we would call each other regularly and just pity party. Like, like it would be like, oh, woe is me. Look at this. Oh, woe is me. But look at how woe is me. Like, and I can't stand them now. Like, I cannot stand them now. I'm just like, nope. If I invite you to a pity party, Van, don't come because I don't want to be there either. Like I really just I feel that it's something I just don't want to be involved in. So,
No.
do you have any questions for me? You want to ask me a question and then you'll answer your own question as well? It's sort of the cycle that we go back and forth here.
Hmm. Well, with regard to your affinity for the idea of the universe being a higher power for you, how do you work that? What does that mean to you?
Okay, even in the absence, me being a godless bastard too, because I don't want to use the G word. Really, for me, I've just had so many events in my career. First of all, I'm a musician. I would call myself a remarkably creative musician. I write more songs than most. I write more songs than 10 most normal creative people. Um, but there's points in my life where um, I feel like the song's not coming from me. I'm singing about circumstances that aren't me. I'm writing music that I don't even like sometimes. Like it's like I'm more of a conduit. Like really, I feel like I'm a conduit for this song coming from somewhere. And so one of the things that and then on top of that, there has been some people in my life where there's just an unexplainable connection. Like where I can randomly think about them. And this, I'm not saying I intentionally think about them, but I will have a random thought about them. And within 30 seconds, I will either get a text or a call or something from them. And there's only three people in the universe like that. And so that's not like I'm just marginalizing statistics about occurrences in my life and pretending that there's some symbology with it. It's just that there is some unexplainable connection with certain people that is only to me some kind of energy related connection. Like we're either on the same frequency or something. There's something that's not getting measured in the world yet that is providing me with a connection with certain people in my life. So when I went into treatment, I was certain that the 12-step thing was not going to work for me because of my lack of belief in God. But what happened is about 3 days into me getting there, either the daily reflections or it was the just for today for the NA. It was about faith. And so everybody in the group were sharing about faith. And when it got to about the fourth guy, he was a religious person. And I remember looking at him and I was like, man, I was like, it was almost envy where I was like, look at how much, like a serenity or a peace comes from his sense of faith. Like it was actually like a really for somebody who wasn't a reasonably content person when he spoke about his faith, it brought a state of like peace and serenity to him. And I was like, wow. I'm like, wouldn't it be so easy? Like, wouldn't it be so easy if I had that, you know? And then there was another person, they shared something that did not resonate with me. Then another good friend of mine, young Gabriel, and he was talking about his faith and how it was helping him through. And I realized in that moment that, like, I had believed in this universal energy that gave me my songs, right? The only the only time that I ever experienced writer's block was when I tried to direct the flow of the songs. Like, there was a point where I was in 8 bands, and so I would just use all the different genres of songs I got to, like, go. Some would go to this band, some would go to that band, because one was a rock band, one was a funk band, like I had outlets for it all. But when I wanted to actually just focus and create one kind of genre, it was when my creativity stopped. It was almost like self will versus your higher power's will, right? Like, and so what I realized in that moment was that I had a higher power for songwriting, but not to save my own life. And for me, that was just a turning point where it was like it really showed me, first of all, how valueless I had made my own self. Like I was worth really less than a song. And that secondly, that I did believe in something more. It just wasn't what you would call God at all. You know, like, if anybody, I feel to the core of me that there is some kind of connectedness to the energy of this universe, and I'm happy enough with that. I don't call it God for me. I call it the universe, because it is a connection to the universe. I walk a lot. Like, I walk almost 20K a day, and I'm outside with my dogs in, the immenseness of the beauty of where we live. You know how beautiful it is here. You run or do something because you have really nice shoes. You're
I
just,
walk.
yeah, he walks. There we go.
And
But,
pickleball.
but it's hard to go outside here and not be like, wow, a lot of days, and I feel connected to that. And so I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, well, no, it's
Yep.
it's your answer, and it's as satisfactory as anybody's answer is for them,
Yeah.
right?
And so now, can you ask yourself that same question?
I can't even remember what the hell I asked you.
Neither can
Oh,
I. You
well,
know what?
with regard to well, spirituality, I mean,
Mm,
it's a pretty short, like you said, what came to me when you were speaking about that guy that seemed to have something
mm,
with regard to his sense of faith. There have been many times as well for me that I look at somebody who talks a great faith, but in action and reality, I wouldn't give you 5 cents for it, and like you said, I wish it were that easy.
mm,
And I say sometimes, if all I had to do was pay for it or pray for it, we'd all be done. And I mean, pay for it by going to a very expensive recovery
yeah.
treatment center, or
Mm,
pray for it. But we know that statistically and factually that the quote unquote success rate is pretty dismal
yeah.
regardless. For me, it's about hard frickin' work and commitment, right?
Mm,
And staying in the game,
mm,
embracing the suck. I think that I'm just have developed a much more stoic philosophy around life on life's terms.
mm,
A stoic, when they say it is what it is, they mean literally it is what it is. Can you
yeah.
do anything about it?
Mm,
No. Then don't worry. Can you do
yeah.
anything about it? Yes. Then don't worry, right?
Oh.
And yeah, that's where it comes down to. It's like I control one thing.
Mm,
That's how I play my game. With
yep.
regard to people, places, things, situations, organizations,
Mm-hmm,
institutions, I may have a little influence here or there, but for the
mm-hmm,
most part, it's how I react and how I respond is on me. And it's practice. It's hard
mm-hmm.
work. And I'll just follow that up quick. I just wanted to read something quick
Yeah.
by the infamous and famous at the same time Bill W.
Okay.
Um, he said it must never, probably some years back, right? It must never be forgotten that the purpose of Alcoholics Anonymous is to sober up alcoholics. There is no religious or spiritual requirement for membership. No demands are made on anyone. An experience is offered which members may accept or reject. That is up to them.
I love that.
A lot of people don't know about that, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
there's
great.
there's many that I have by Bill W that a lot of people don't know about, right? that give everybody the freedom to experience sobriety however the hell
Well,
they
because
want.
ultimately he wanted to save lives, you know, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sure. And maybe not interfere with the dividends in the seventh tradition, right? It's
Yeah.
like the more people that we can get, the more money we can get, you know.
Oh,
And
I don't think it was that. I don't think it was that. I would like to see some proof on that concept.
well, we don't talk about that in all circles, but there are
No,
some
definitely.
circles that
Mm,
would be open to saying, well,
mm.
yeah, if you are not really fully inclusive and end up, in fact, being exclusive, it's going to cut your numbers down, right?
Well, it's also going to
Your
kill somebody.
congregation.
It's going to kill somebody. Who's kidding who?
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
true enough. Yeah.
Okay, so I got another question here for you. An agnostic's recovery is not a lack of faith, it's a search for truth without pretense. What truths have you discovered by staying curious over the years?
Um, Truths about
Any
life or
truths,
myself or any truth.
anything, any things that maybe have helped you stay straight or that you've observed through your path of sobriety
Yeah.
or just anything
Well,
about life. I mean,
I can only talk
we're
about,
talking about the freedom rising, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, I can only talk about my truth really
Yeah,
as I perceive it. And so
exactly.
the the beauty for me of being, a godless bastard, atheist, agnostic,
Mhm.
is that I am beholden to enjoying the truth,
Mhm.
reality.
Yeah.
Evidence-based discussion is interesting to me, right? I don't like a lot of speculation. I don't care a lot for opinions, right? Because they're not facts. For example, everybody seems to have the right to have their opinion, and granted, you do. Fair enough, right? But for me, for example, and I start with and end with me, if my opinion on something is dangerous or stupid, it should be called out, right? And that's the way she goes. It's not a scientific fact. So I don't care a lot about stuff that isn't. I like the truth. I like reality, right?
Mhm.
And at least from what I'm able to perceive it at this point in my journey, is that I I like the idea of understanding and being committed to the fact that, like a Stoic, it is what it is. And the real value for me as a human comes from figuring it out my own self, right?
Mhm.
Over time. And sometimes that means leaving it alone too for a while, letting it percolate, right? But
Mhm.
not running away from it and not calling on a contrived, for me, outside source to help me
Mhm.
figure shit out, right? It's on me. And I always talk about, I have to shoot the crocodiles closest to the boat. Sometimes it's that hard, and try to paddle to the other side,
Mhm.
or walk through the fire to get through the other side. Like, I'm not allowed to create fantasies or fantasy thinking or mythological thinking in my brain in order to survive. I have to question myself very deeply sometimes about what am I not accepting and what am I looking at that I'm hiding from or creating some nonsense about, when in reality I'm not looking at it properly and squarely in the two eyes so that I can
Mhm.
understand it better, right? I'm not
Yeah.
allowed to be schizophrenic about navigating my life and my safety and my sobriety. Sobriety is a priority. And I think the only way to do that for me is to see stuff as it is, right? And it's not sexy and it's
Mhm.
not always fun, but I don't think for me that there's any proper growth otherwise until I can grow up enough inside and accept life on life's terms and things as they are, that I can actually evolve as a person and break through, an old exoskeleton and become somebody worth becoming again, right? Like, I
Mm,
think that that's my point to existence. I think that's all we have, and all I have
hmm.
is this one life, right? Before the big dirt nap. And I always say I have a lot more spring and summers behind me than in front of me. Why the hell do I want to go through kicking and screaming and whining and pining about things that I don't understand or don't like when it's a calling for me to grow, continue to grow up? I think that's what sobriety is about, personal evolution, and I can't do that unless I'm seeing things as they are.
I love that. Okay, what truths have I discovered by staying curious over the years? You know, I mean, I once I was kind of introduced, like, honestly, I didn't really have much tools for introspection before I arrived. I think that there was a lot inside me that I didn't want to look at when I was partying. And, like, I mean, I was doing some things that were pretty hurtful for people. And I would rather mask by, having some, like, I was a sensationalist, like I would enjoy sensations at all costs for other people, and so that led to delusions that led to delusions about how I was affecting other people or not, and it was also I would amplify emotions in order to enable more drinking or using, like I would get madder at you so I could be mad and go off and drink or whatever, and I would be sad. I would mourn people before they died, like it was really and the truths are that I was just basically creating dissatisfaction in order to enable that dissatisfied state, that enabled more using, that enabled the pity parties, that like negative attention is still attention, you know just like when you see it with children all the time, like if they were given as much attention for being bad or more, sometimes, like sometimes the only time the parents pay attention to them is to yell at them, then guess what they think is really good to do? Be bad, you know and I think somehow I was caught into that cycle, and so now seeing, like, I can't unsee what I've seen. I used to, in music, I would call it looking in the window. And when I would be able to actuate a movement that I could never do before, I would call it like I could look in the window to a room of knowledge. And once I see in that room, I can never unsee it. I may not be able to open the door and go in that room all the time, because it's like um, you might be in a state of serenity, but you might not be able to stay there all day long. You might get in a line, somebody might cut you off while you're driving, whatever, but that calmness exists once you've experienced it, and you can't unforget that. And for me, seeing my character defects and my shortcomings, it's like I can't unsee when I'm doing them now. I might still do them, but I know what they are, and I can't pretend anymore that, with whatever untruths and delusions I had masked over it before, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I can't unsee what the room of freedom looks like.
Right.
Hmm.
The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
I don't fear to enter it. I just don't understand how to wedge that door open.
Well,
Maybe.
can I share a quick tool with
Yeah,
you?
sure.
Oh, yeah, it's a very quick tool, and it's based upon some of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it basically is an acronym, and
yeah.
it A B C D E is the
Yeah.
name of the tool, right?
Okay.
And it's kind of based on that awareness that you were mentioning, that you
Mhm.
can't unsee, but first you have to be able to see
Yeah,
clearly to what the hell you're up against, right? And
absolutely.
so the A, boy, this is difficult. The A
Yeah, it's
stands
because you have the
for,
background on. If you had your background off, you could do it.
yeah. Can you see it now?
Kind of like you could, you know what? If you want to turn your background off, if you're gonna do it a bunch, you could turn it off for the show. It's just fine.
No, well, I mean, I'll
I
just
can
go
see
through
it
it.
now,
Yeah.
as long
So
as you don't move.
yeah, A, B, C, D, E, right? It's quite
Yeah.
simple. The
Yeah.
A stands for activating event, right?
Okay.
And that means anything, any kind of trigger,
Yeah.
anything that triggers you, person, place, and thing, situation, organization, boss looks grumpy, girlfriend said something, whatever, any activating event. And then C stands for the consequence. What did I do as a result? What happened to me in terms of my behavior or attitude? Or, did I drink? Did I use? Did I get angry? Did I yell, swear, punch the wall, whatever? And the most important aspect of all of this is B, and that stands for belief. What do I believe about this situation, this activating event, right? Is it necessarily real and true? Is there evidence for it? It's really important to go down to the D and dispute irrational beliefs, right? And to question them deeply and sort of question them to death and take them apart so that we can begin to rectify our beliefs around
Hmm.
things that we've been addicted to believing previously. Everything is sad, everything is against me, everyone hates me, that nothing is going to work for me, blah blah blah. Get into
Yeah.
the pity parties. And then the E stands for effective new belief, right?
Hmm.
So it's simple, beautiful, powerful, practical, and that's one of the tools that we look at occasionally in the meeting, right? And so it's under the category, I guess, in cognitive behavioral techniques as cognitive restructuring. To
Hmm.
begin to change, what do I believe
Yeah.
about this situation and why do I believe it? Is there evidence for it? Do I have to continue to believe it, So that's kind of how we rule, is a lot of
In my next step for it, I'm doing on beliefs instead of resentments.
hmm,
Um, my first sponsor always said, he said, your feelings are 100% real, but the facts they're based upon might not be.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the essence of that tool right there.
Yeah. I love how you had like, so just could you quickly do the A to E again, just for like,
A
yep.
stands for activating event.
Yeah.
Any trigger,
Yep.
anything that triggers you around people,
Hmm.
places, things, situations, organizations, institutions. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, there's a glitch inside, right?
Yep.
And there's a consequence, um, a resulting consequence from that. Yeah, I can
Hmm.
get anxious, I can get angry, I can get afraid, I can say things, do things, I can use, I can drink, whatever the consequence is. And the most important aspect is the be and the belief. And it's like, what do I believe about that activating event
Hmm.
that causes such, horrible behavior for me, terrible
Hmm.
consequences? And so the D again is
No, it's
DID,
the C though.
consequence.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. The consequence is what happens as a
Hmm.
result of the activating event
Okay.
based upon what I believe about the activating event.
Okay.
So I use, I drink, I get angry, I punch the wall, I swear, I feel anxious, upset,
Hmm.
angry, whatever. There's a consequence somehow, physiological or outward, inward. However, I react is based on my own physiology and my belief. And then the D stands to dispute irrational beliefs, like
Hmm.
you said, I have these feelings and I have these reactions. Do I necessarily believe them? And why do I continue to believe them if I do? They're dangerous. They might be harmful,
Hmm.
even silly, childish, whatever. I've got to work hard to dispute those. And then E is effective new belief. What do I believe? Well, my boss is a jerk to everyone. I'm not special. How do I handle it?
Yeah.
Kind of
Hmm.
thing. I got to put on my big boy pants and go out there in real life and practice becoming somebody who can handle life without always reacting.
Love that. Do you have another question for me?
Um, yeah, and I mean, you alluded to it previously, and it's something I think that is pretty statistically sound and found these days with regard to um, trauma in childhood and unqualified parenting, these are the main culprits as to why people end up in rooms of recovery.
Mhm.
And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I can only speak from my life, right?
Yeah.
My father was paralyzed when I was conceived, died when I was 4 of multiple sclerosis. I was a fatherless bastard, but like only in the sense that, I really, and then my mom, like in the 70s, a single working lady, it was hard. It wasn't like now. It was not like now. Like, like there was a show like Mary Tyler Moore, like, whoa, look at that single lady making it on her own in the city. And it was really like that. There was a lot of sexist resistance to somebody being an independent woman. Like you better get yourself another husband. And so with her, like she was a teacher, and so I was very much a latchkey kid on my own in a very, very rough city. Like I was bullied. I did bully, like I became part of that cycle. I was very small, very smart, and very hyper. And bigger, less intelligent kids hated me because they would look like a fool next to me in class all day long. And uh, and so consequently, I had to fight at least once a week of my life from 3 years old to the end of grade 10. And at the end of grade 10, it was like finally the people learned that they should never touch me again. And it was only out of fear on their part that the rest of high school was okay for me, you know. Um, so I feel that my entire childhood was full of trauma, like physical, verbal, emotional, everything. Like I can certainly say for my part that it has been a massive part of me discovering what has been constantly causing me pain, Like I even just yesterday really came to an understanding. I was doing some reflection in the morning, and, a big part of my conflicts with people I love is coming from the assumption that everybody wants to hurt me, even a subconscious one. It's there still. It really, like, upon a lot of reflection, has shown me. So I personally, I do believe that there's definitely some unresolved trauma. Like, it's way easier to feel cool or whatever. Like when you start drinking or start using drugs, right? That pain of feeling lesser or not good or whatever discomfort it is you have with your own identity, it's almost unanimous that drink or drugs initially makes that disappear temporarily,
Hmm.
you know? And so for myself, that was certainly the case, especially with alcohol. Especially with alcohol.
Mm.
It's like I remember all of a sudden feeling cool, sexy, like a great dancer, like all the things that is the classic thing. And how about yourself? What are your thoughts about the early childhood trauma and that?
Yeah. Well, from what I've read and understood, it's pretty, and I used to take informal surveys, in
Mhm.
meetings, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Trauma in childhood, unqualified parenting, and people would go, yeah. Sometimes for the first time, it seemed like they could actually understand that mommy dearest was a monster, or uh,
Mm.
daddy dearest was, abusive,
Yeah.
in every way. I mean, some of the kids,
Yeah.
grown wounded children, as they're referred to, went through a lot of stuff, for the most part. And then, the odd one says, "Oh, I had a perfect childhood. I had everything I wanted." And then Gabor Mate would say, "Well, that's trauma in childhood. When you wake up and you realize you don't have any skills or ability to navigate your own life and safety,
Hmm.
then you feel, very inept." And sometimes the liquor and the drugs and all of that other stuff is, comes into play and, helps you to cope. with all of that emptiness, right? Inability to cope otherwise, right? And yeah, so for me, I think it was just a matter of not really connecting that well. You know, my mother was put in an orphanage at 2 years old, right?
Yeah.
And we know that there's family patterns and shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
And you know, and and you know, uh, both parents were just of a time where you didn't talk about stuff, right? And I used to have headaches every day, coming home from school, and I just didn't know who I was. I just didn't have any ability to cope or manage. I didn't have any sort of let's say good input,
Was it
positive
physically
input.
rough in your
No,
childhood?
no, no.
No.
It was I didn't have to suffer through that, but it was emotionally
Mm-hmm.
devoid of good connections in terms of learning who you are and any value
Mm-hmm.
and how you get through hard things, right? So everything seemed overwhelming to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in grade one, I felt like on the outside looking in. What
Mm-hmm.
the hell am I doing here? What do these people want from me? I'm
Yeah.
I'm very uncomfortable because I don't have anything inside by which I can navigate this reality. No coping skills, no
Mm-hmm.
understanding, wasn't, and so I don't remember really any sort of socializing, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
that my mother had intentionally created. It was always all about her because she was stuck in her trauma at 2 years old. No kid should be in an orphanage at two, and
Yeah.
I resented that for a lot of years that we never ever had any. I never had any other kids to play with.
Yep.
Nothing ever to do.
Yep.
And I always seemed to be getting on Mummy's nerves. And the only time I was a good little boy was when I was behaving well in front of her and her friends, kind of thing, you know. So it was a drastic, dreadful kind of emptiness that didn't understand my part in the universe or who I was, and nobody to reflect that back to me. So
Mm-hmm.
drastically unsocialized
Mm-hmm.
and always anxious all the time and uncertain, and so that definitely is a form of trauma. And then when I came of age at the ripe old age of 15 and started getting a taste of the magic elixir, it calmed the demons,
Yeah.
right? And I thought, well, that's the answer. I mean, shit, nobody. I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad I found this, you
Yep.
know, and then that begins the spiral down even further. And then like everybody, I've never heard a good story. Ultimately, there's always a crash and burn. And the end. I was thinking the other day, there's the entry fee into recovery is pain, and the entry fee uh, into sobriety is also pain. Just kind of different perspectives
Mm-hmm.
on the pain, right? And so, but it's a good pain in the sense that it's a challenge now to myself to stand up and grow and become, rather than the kind of cruel, horrible pain that I put myself through when we take the truck all the way to the dump, and
Mm-hmm.
lose this, that, and everything in every category of life, financial, relational, you know, um, et cetera, et cetera. So it's life, and so I've sort of had to come to learn for myself that unless I embrace the suck, I'm going to get swallowed up and spit out, maybe chewed up and spit
Mm-hmm.
out by life. And so I've had to come to see that it is what it is, and there's an answer there if I look for it and I work for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not to expect to be living in some kind of a fantasy land where nothing bad ever happens. It's like that's not life, that's not reality.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to grow up to learn. It's like, wow, life can be tough.
You know, I there's a writer I really love a lot, Michael Singer, writer of The Untethered Soul.
Oh,
But he speaks, he does a wonderful job about surrender. And one of the things he talks about, though, is that, the scars hurt going on to your heart, and the scars also hurt when you pull them off your heart. And so when you're talking about pain, being the fee for coming into recovery or sobriety, whatever, it is because we have to start pulling those scars off our heart to clean house. Like, I don't think you need to believe in a higher power or God to see that, first of all, we got to take responsibility for our reaction, but I also believe, even regardless of a higher power or spirituality, we need to clear out the wreckage of our past. Like, that shit is the stuff keeping us sick. And that's, like, so this is leading me now to the next point is, without your higher power, do you still believe in the process of amends?
yeah,
You do.
100%.
Okay.
I always say that the world could do a step 10, it would be a lot nicer place. And I found over the years that, and I did an amends the other day with a friend actually in the program. I said, I'm going to do something that's always talked about, but it seems to me quite rare. I'm going
Mhm.
to make amends.
Yeah.
And because I said, I need to get this off my chest and I need to relieve you from the bondage of me and what I was saying and what my behavior. And I need to get free from
Hmm.
the bondage of self. And so, and he was all for it. And of course, as it often goes, it didn't really bother me, but if it helps you, then so be it. And, but I think the wisdom in like step 9, 8, 9, and 10 is
Hmm.
so profound
Yeah.
and important to personal liberation, or at least the attempt, right? Because it's
Mm.
not always going to work in every situation. And there are
Mm.
people that that I'll probably never be able to make amends to. And
Mm.
like you said, the bullied became the bully, right? Only hurt
Mm.
people. And so shoulda, coulda, woulda. I don't want to
Mm.
live in that land either.
Yeah.
But if they came in front of me right now somehow, magically, I would be prepared, and I see the value, absolute value, in making a sincere amends, right?
Mm.
Mostly, mostly for the sake of saying, I hope you get free from me,
Mm.
and if you accept it, then
Yeah.
that can help me too. But mostly, I'm ashamed for who I was, and I
Mm.
didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And that's what how I look at it, right?
I really believe that the world would be a better place if everybody did a set of steps in grade 12.
Mm.
Like, let's just look at all our childhood shit. Let's just let it all go. Let's just start again. Like, like, as a turning point into adulthood, let's stop pretending that who we were as kids needs to go with us everywhere. You know, I think it would be like a far less baggage filled universe. You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
absolutely. And
All the stuff
so,
we have to learn in school, algebra and calculus and all of the other stuff, it's just it always strikes me as so odd that at this point in our evolution we don't learn. But sometimes it can be religious pressure too. It's like, well, we don't want to learn about that in school. We learn that in our own religion, and it's like, well,
yeah,
okay.
and so now, okay, let's just I've got a few more questions here that are just coming to mind that aren't the ones I have ready. But now, I don't think you need to have a God or a higher power to see the value of meditation and inner reflection. Like, do you see your own intuition and cognitive integrity or cognitive dissonance as a form of spirituality? Like, it is your spirit in those circumstances. So even without a God or a higher power, you must see there's more than the physical to us when you start talking about your mind.
Yeah. And it's a term that I never use,
Yeah,
spirit or
yeah,
soul.
yeah,
I've looked up spirituality and I've seen it as the breath of God, and it's like, oh, no thanks,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Makes no sense to me. But I know where you're going because over the years, I've said that one of the most important and helpful and useful things that I've ever done in my life is meditation.
Yeah.
And some of the old timers will go, ha, gotcha, that's spiritual. And it's called, no, that's called meditation.
Mm,
Why do you have to always turn things in your favor? I mean, what I see is everything is physical, right? We are energy. That's a
mm,
fact of science, and we've known that for a
yeah,
long time. How
yeah.
does that energy come about? We're a soup of physiological, electromagnetic workings and chemical. We're a soup of
Mm,
chemicals and
yeah.
hormones and all of this stuff, right? And to me, I think it's pretty understood for me that all of this stuff acts and reacts based on what starts up here, what's going on behind the eyeballs and in the ear
Mm,
holes, you know, and how I see the world and how I value myself and what I think, right?
mm,
And that's based on purely for me my belief system, right?
mm,
And so I can't get into the spirituality thing of it for
mm.
me. But if it makes somebody else feel better, I'll say, yeah, okay, call it whatever you want. But for
Yeah.
me, I am strictly devoted to the idea that my belief system needs rectifying and tweaking and practice.
Mm,
But meditation, it's evidence for years how effective that can be in keeping the system calm, not just for like the 20 minutes. I mean, it was brutal meditation for me, right? I got a book. I've always thought that it was interesting and important for me and potentially useful from what I understood even as a kid. And
mm,
then somewhere along the line, I heard that Christianity thinks of it as the occult, so I never did bother with it
mm,
because it kind of scared me, until years later, I got a book, Meditation for Dummies, at the West
mm,
Kelowna Library. And it was
mm,
actually a really good book. And I said, I'm going to commit to this. And 20 minutes, twice a day. And it was the most difficult thing I ever did. Right. And I sat through it and I had anxiety. There was stuff in there that was, I had a filter that I was trying to stop the trauma and the
mm,
stuff from coming up. And that was where all the problem came. And then I got into it and it seemed to start working for a while. And then I hit this wall and it was like, oh, come on, is there nothing in this world for me? I was really starting to enjoy it. And but I said, I'm just going to keep going no matter what. And it was hard, for 2 weeks. It was just constant anxiety and pain. And then something came to me through a video. Um, Muji is his name, and he's quite a famous, meditation guru guy, Buddhist monk. And he said, remember, they're only feelings. They can't kill you. Just stare right back at them. Just
mm,
continue to stay on the path because they cannot kill you. Even though my own feelings were holding me hostage and terrifying me, that was so important, so liberating to realize that, yeah, that's all me. And if I shortcut that now and I stop now, I'm going to miss out. So
yeah.
I went through, and then one day it just kind of broke open, and I realized it was all my system was trying to protect me from stuff that I didn't need protection from anymore. And so
Mm,
that was one of the most important things that I ever did for awareness, personal
yeah.
awareness. But I wouldn't call it spirituality, no.
And so how do you feel about living with principles, the principles that they talk about in the program,
Mhm.
and how unprincipled living affects the integrity of your mind?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're like you said, when you look inside and you see, um, the peace that you had, and you can't unsee that anymore, or because you've presumably done the next right thing and have
Mm,
become somebody worth becoming, I know as well when I'm crossing the line, right? And so
Hmm.
I feel that, and
Hmm.
I have a watcher inside. My inner watcher says, "No, you're not allowed to do that." And it gets called to the carpet. Drew's trying to call me. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to shut that off. And so, based on my experience and based on the principles that I've practiced and I know that are right and useful and good for me, I have to call myself to the carpet and say, you know better.
Hmm.
Go down that path, and here's what you go down this path, and here's something else, right? So that's how it kind of works for me. You?
But now hold on though. Like, okay, so say you're having dishonest thoughts, but you're sitting there talking about honesty.
Yeah. And dishonest thoughts,
How does that affect you?
like a cognitive dissonance, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, it affects me physiologically,
Yep.
right? My anxiety will probably creep up
Hmm.
because I don't have a good, honest, solid answer,
Hmm.
and that's what dissonance means, waffling
Yeah.
between conflicting points. And
It's literally the lack of harmony.
yeah, but I think it serves a purpose though for somebody who likes the truth and who wants the truth, right? It's a test for me to say, where do I where do I belong between
Hmm.
these two things?
Yeah.
Is there any in between for me? Am I sacrificing my integrity by believing this too much? Should I
Yeah.
go more to this side? So it's a process. It's always a process of coming
Hmm.
into new information and new behavior over time, and by sometimes letting things go, sometimes by writing things out,
Hmm.
right? I don't like the uncomfortableness, but you know what? If if I embrace the suck and I say it is what it is,
Hmm.
and I give myself permission that more than anything, it's okay to feel this way,
Hmm.
no matter what, give myself permission and love,
Hmm.
then who the hell cares? Then I know I'm committed to the work and the process, and it will answer for itself in time. But if I fight against that and hate on myself and say this feeling sucks, it's just a feeling. It can't kill me, but it's there for a reason. And that's how I roll.
I love that.
Yeah. I have no choice.
Are you ready for another question?
Yeah. When uh,
Okay.
when are we going till?
Well, I'm free any up to 9:50, 9:30. But
Oh, I see.
you're like,
Okay.
whoa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can do one more, and
Okay,
then
one more question. Okay, let me look through my questions and find one that I
I
really
mean,
want
it's
to.
great. It's enjoyable, and you're
Yeah.
doing a fantastic job. You got a lot of good questions, good insight, and I can see why people should like this. Your podcasts, right?
It's, you know what? It's really fun. It's really fun to come on. It's nice to have these conversations. Like at a meeting, we don't get to ask each other after we share. And that's one of the beautiful things about here is that if you're more curious in another direction, we can explore that. You know,
Mhm.
it
Yep.
really it really is a conversation about recovery.
Yeah.
Okay. In the end, being agnostic may be less about rejecting God and more about embracing mystery with honesty.
Hmm.
How do you live in the mystery today without needing all the answers?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one, eh? Oh, and I think that feels very true. And I think again, that's part of, embracing all the hard things
Hmm.
and being able to see the mystery as sometimes something that needs to be solved, but sometimes not so much. But the whole point is that ultimately the results are on me, right? And the things that I learn as a result of walking through that fire
Hmm.
in mystery and feeling uncertain and lost and stupefied and upset and anxious and angry and everything, it always, I've walked through a good many fires, and it's about going into the desert, so to speak,
Hmm.
within and
Yep.
finding out who I am and what I'm not accepting, what it is that I don't like, and
Hmm.
why I'm pitying myself and what I'm afraid of, right?
Hmm.
Right? It's always seems to be about something that I need to learn that I don't want to,
Hmm.
acceptance. And acceptance is about, accepting just about anything that I don't want to, because acceptance is hard,
Hmm.
right? It sounds easy, but it's always about doing something. It's like going against my grain, right? On any subject
Hmm.
around people, places, things, situations, organizations, institutions, the world at large. It's never about something that's easy that I like. That doesn't require any acceptance at all.
Acceptance is easy on a great day.
Yeah,
Bottom line, like you were saying last night in your share, you were saying the same thing. It was like acceptance is usually on something I'm not enjoying.
yeah,
And when do we usually experience lack of acceptance? When we're not getting what we want or we are fearing losing something that we have.
yeah, yeah, possibly, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost assuredly one of those two things.
yeah.
Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a position, whether it's a social standing, whether it's a dollar, whether it's a house, whether it's a car, whether it's a job, you know, anything.
A person, right? A
Yeah,
friend,
yeah,
relationship. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes
so,
it's worth letting go, accepting that it's not worth hanging on to. And
what I've learned in the last year, just from a smattering, like a very smattering of moments of acceptance, is that it makes life so much more peaceful. Like when I can actually navigate a situation with acceptance, I'm generally able to help and serve other people better, and I'm in way less pain inside myself
yeah,
because I really believe I'm the creator of most of my pain.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
What do I believe, right?
yeah.
What am
Like
I
after
willing to
after doing
defend?
after doing my step work, almost all my resentments were from a lack of tolerance or acceptance. You know,
Yeah.
and the result of result of those two things was sadness or anger.
What it does is it forces me to grow the F up,
Yeah,
right? I no longer have the right to spaz, to lose my mind, to have too many opinions about this, that, or the other thing.
or to
Okay.
blame everything on others.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's a calming effect, a maturity that says, I only have so much time and I only have so many F's to give.
Yeah,
I better save them for, stuff that is real
yeah,
or important, if there is such a thing, right? So that I can feel bad and lose my mind
mhm,
and yell at people. And, it's
yeah,
like, who wants to live that way, right? So there's real power in acceptance. And I saw it for the first time yesterday on your arm. I was trying to read it and
yeah.
you're in me there. And I thought, yeah, acceptance is the key, right?
After my second set of steps, I was with my sponsor and we were going over it. And it's like he kind of boiled it down to all my stuff was a lack of acceptance. And he says, like, you have one choice the rest of your life: acceptance or resentment and shortcoming. Acceptance, resentment, and shortcoming. Like, that choice is just going to be the choice for the rest of your life. I left his place. We talked about it. We talked about it for about 2.5 hours. It was like my sponsor is a wonderful, wonderful guy, but an amazing philosopher. Amazing philosopher. Like I absolutely adore his mind. And I left his place, and 5 minutes later, I'm driving, and my daughter calls, and she says, "You know, when you thought you had a daughter who didn't have cancer?" And she tells me she has cancer right then. And it was like that very moment I was in the greatest state of acceptance I'd ever been in, Ben. And I realized to myself right at that moment, I'm like, this isn't about you. If you like if you do anything but support her right now, like this
Hmm.
is not, and anything else will be the incorrect. Like I don't I hate what I just heard, but I had to have acceptance at that moment for her sake.
Hmm.
And so then it was shortly after that I got that tattoo on my arm because I want to remember it at the moments I really need it in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
What did they say? Acceptance clears the mind wonderfully when you only have one option, one choice,
yeah,
limited options. And
yeah,
then yeah, for sure. No, it's one of those really important times in life, right? Where
yeah,
I, I cannot be about me. I have to be about you. My boss is going through that right now, you know.
yep,
We talk to him anymore. He took off back to Mexico because his wife had a stroke
yeah,
a month and a half ago. And so he's here at the hospital every day.
yep,
And he's hard to get a hold of now, but he's in it, right?
yeah.
And
And
not
and
only
and
makes us
and,
think
and
about it.
literally being angry about it, being a sucky baby about it, it doesn't do anything for you.
No
All
solution.
all all it does, all it does is remove you as the role that you could be for others in that situation. You know,
Mhm.
like one last question here.
Yeah.
How in your agnostic beliefs, how do you believe about service? Do you believe the value of service inside your program or not?
Yeah. Well, of course, helping other people, right? I mean,
Yeah, but I
that
mean, I just, like they tie it around a lot to, but are you service minded
yeah,
in yourself and your program?
that's why I started a meeting, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and I've facilitated meetings for a number of years,
hmm,
right? I don't care about what you call the meeting, but it's still service work,
yeah,
right? I think the difference for me is that I'm able to have more reasonable, rational, brain to brain type of analysis
hmm,
um, meetings with people if they want, right?
yep,
And utilize tools and things to get it into black and white. And most importantly for me is that for example, when I started a smart meeting years ago, we used to come to the meeting Tuesdays at 7. We have a nice meeting, and pretty soon up to 28 people, and then so and so would go missing, for 3 weeks, and pretty soon I'm going like, I wonder, did I say something wrong? Do I smell? What happened? We were starting to become
hmm,
friends, and I'm talking to somebody, and they said they relapsed, man. What do you think? And then
yeah,
I realized, yeah, I can't carry anybody, right? And
hmm,
for me, I kind of resent in meetings when people say things like, we're all miracles, and I can see that they're kind of rubbing it in. And I tell them later, I say, well, I'm glad you're a miracle, but I'm hard work and commitment, frankly, you know.
yep,
There's nothing easy about this. If I were a
hmm,
miracle, that'd be great, And so I've come to be able to, let people be who they are. We're all on our own
hmm,
trip and our own
yep,
journey, right? So I don't have any kind of fantasy thoughts about me getting anybody sober or anybody getting sober magically. It's a hard frickin' road, and it
yep,
takes hard work and commitment. And it's only when you crash and burn that is
hmm,
possible. And so it's not on me
yep,
anymore. And it ain't on any kind of God, because if it were that easy, we'd all be done, right?
hmm,
In a sense of a miracle. And the other one that I can't stand too, you know, and then I'll end with that, is the one, there, but for the grace of God go I. And all that means to me is, why did this God choose to save my sorry ass? Like, who the hell am I? Why am I
yep,
so special? And then forsake all those poor people down, on Leon Avenue in
hmm,
Kelowna, or, any street, Hastings in Vancouver, or any street, any city. Like, that's all that means. And it's like, well, your God is just selective then somehow, and kind of cruel in ways, frankly. And it just, they say things like that are supposed to sound really lofty, but to me, it's kind of just not really thinking that clearly. But
yep,
even with clear thinking, there's no guarantee. It's just an option for people,
yep,
an option for people that prefer this kind of approach. But
hmm,
there's still no guarantee, because addiction and recovery are hard freaking things, and only the
hmm,
champs survive, right?
yep.
That's
I
kind of
love it.
how, yeah.
I'm really grateful you came on today, Van, and maybe we'll have a a second round sometime. Godless Bastard Part Two. I feel like we still got more to talk about, but
Right
I'll let
on.
you get on with your day, and I just wanted to say thank you. And
Thank you.
everybody out there, tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye bye, everybody. Catch you later. Thanks, Van. Please help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan, South Okanagan, Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.